so thank you so much, everybody, and let's get started. And I would like to introduce Marissa Beasley.
Hello, everyone. So glad to be here with you this evening. My name is Marissa Beasley, and I am 31 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado, and I am a VHL patient. I was diagnosed with VHL when I was 6 years old. We found a tumor on my adrenal gland. My mom had had some manifestations prior to that, and it wasn't until that everything happened with me that we found out that it was VHL. VHL runs on my mom's side of the family, so I've had many family members who have had different manifestations, primarily in the adrenal glands, and then my mom has been the one who's had a lot of different manifestations in her pancreas and her jugular vein, and some different things like that. I've had all my tumors have been in my adrenal glands. I had surgeries when I was 6, 11, and 22, and have been under surveillance since. Have some little spots in some different areas, but we keep track of that, and lucky to have surveillance and doctors who keep me on a good regimen for that. But I think if I had to think back to something that I wish I would have known when I was diagnosed, I was so little, so I've lived my entire life with VHL. But I think, as I got older, I think the biggest thing I wish I would have known, or just continued to encourage other folks, is be your own advocate. Nobody knows everything going on with you better than you do. And we have incredible resources here with the VHL Alliance. And there's so much hope and, so many great things that have gone on over the last 5 years. And, don't lose hope and just continue to fight for yourself. And, if you don't have any manifestations right now, keep on surveillance, because that's the best thing you can do, is know when they pop up and make sure you manage them and take care of them. So that was just a really quick synopsis of my story, but as we go on through the evening, happy to answer any questions. And like I said, just really glad to be here with all of you.
Thank you so much, Marissa. Seth, do you want to go ahead next?
Evening, everybody. My name is Seth Horowitz. I am from New York. I am 45 years old. I was diagnosed when I was 13, I guess, so 1992, or around then. I am first in family, only in family, so it actually took some time for me to actually get diagnosed. I was getting lots of nausea, I was getting headaches, and for years, basically, my doctors were telling me he's just nervous, this and that is not a problem. And my parents kept on saying, I don't think that's the case, but doctors kept on saying that, so we kind of went along with that until I was a freshman in high school, and I was getting very, very sick daily. And then I actually saw a new doctor, and she said, I think you actually have some pressure in your eyes, I can see. Would you mind meeting up with a neurologist? And that turned into having an MRI. And anyone who's had one recently should know that in 1992, they were about 10 times as long as they are now. So I was in the machine for about 3 hours just for the brain. And I came out of the machine, and it was clear that I had I believe it was a 3-centimeter cyst basically on the brainstem. And I had emergency surgery right afterward. Rehab for the most part was about 3 months or so, learning how to walk for a second time. It was definitely fairly traumatic, but I was back playing ice hockey within, I would say, 1 year of the actual surgery. So things kind of worked out okay then. Being that it was the early 90s, they actually didn't have the VHL blood test yet. So I was a clinical diagnosis of VHL where it was, okay, he seems to have the following. And also, since it was the early 90s, the Alliance was kind of first starting out, didn't really exist yet. I certainly hadn't heard of it. As far as surveillance goes, that didn't really exist either. So I was getting yearly MRIs of the CNS only. So they were checking brain, spine, just to see what was going on. Then in 2001, I was supposed to go to London for a year of work. And in one of my yearly scans, they saw something around C2. They said you have a small cyst seems to have grown. Let's take it out. You'll stop work for maybe 1 month or so. We'll have you home, and everything will be great. Again, not knowing any better, I listened to my doctor. I had the surgery. I woke up. I was actually a quadriplegic after that surgery. So they had clearly nicked something on the spinal cord. I wound up in inpatient rehab for roughly 2 months. I was then home for, call it, another year doing outpatient rehab. I finally got to the point where I could walk with a cane only, which is definitely, had you told me that right after the surgery, I would have signed up for that, no problem. But that was also when I kind of found the alliance, because frankly, I had lots of time on my hands. So I was able to research as much as possible. That was when I also learned that I needed to start doing surveillance on my kidneys, on my eyes, as well as all of the other aspects of what surveillance actually entails. So I had already had VHL for, I mean, let's call it 10 years or so before I did my first full surveillance set of scans, where I checked for FIOs and all of those things, which we all know so well now. And to Marissa's point, we definitely have to keep on top of what the guidelines are for our scans. It can get frustrating, it can get annoying scheduling them, but it's definitely something which has to be done. And for me, that was definitely the most important thing for me to actually learn what the surveillance was, so I could stick to it. And the Alliance basically helped come up with that, and has been very active in that sense, and has certainly been super, super helpful for me. And I guess as far as that goes, yeah, so I get my scans normally. If something happens, we'll deal with that. I've had 2 more brain surgeries since then. Needless to say, I fired that doctor, so I no longer used him. I like my new surgeon much better. To Marissa's point, though, you're not married to any doctor you have, and if you don't like them, be your own advocate. I actually fired my neurologist last go around, so I'll be seeing a new one in December, because frankly, we just didn't vibe very well. Where I don't need a touchy-feely doctor. Some people do, but I just felt like there was kind of a lack of attention to my case. And given VHL impacts so many organs, I definitely wanted a more holistic view of what was going on. So even though I go to a quadruple C in New York City, so a comprehensive clinical care center, I just wasn't getting the greatest vibes from this doctor. But I feel good going forward, where again, if something doesn't feel right, I get scanned for it, and I just stay on top of that. And so again, just looking back, things I'm happy about or wish I had back then was, one, I'd meet somebody with VHL until I was 35. So it was definitely pretty cool having met someone then. It would have been much cooler had I met someone much younger. There was surveillance, as well as just keeping on top of what's going on now. So the knowledge from the Alliance, as well as other patients out there, as it goes to things like Wellereg, I think is probably larger than most actual doctors know. So it's definitely helpful to have people to talk to if you have any questions or anything like that. And I think I've rambled a little bit there, so I'll call it quits. But like Marissa, happy to answer any questions either now, or if you'd like to reach out to me, Josh has my contact information, and I'm happy to talk to anybody. And that's me.
Thanks, Seth. Emily, do you want to go ahead next?
Sure. I'd unmute myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Bilchak. I'm a social worker. I am 41, going to be 42, and I live in the Metro Detroit area. Obviously, I've had VHL all my life. I was diagnosed when I was 17. I inherited VHL from my father, and I'm a little unique, at least as far as the people who've spoken before, in that I got my diagnosis through genetic testing before I ever had any manifestations. So it was very important to my father. And once the genetic testing was available, all of my family were tested. My sister and I have VHL, my brother does not. So I did not have my first manifestation until I was 22. At that point, it was a small tumor in my brain. And I started the process of watchful waiting and continued monitoring. I was having, at that time, again, the guidelines weren't as tight as they were. I was having my central nervous system checked. I was having MRIs as well as ultrasounds to check my kidneys, eye tests, that type of thing. I was also a caregiver to my father during that time, so I've experienced being a caregiver as well as a patient. My dad passed away when I was 22, about 6 months before I had my first tumor. So I helped him with end of life care. And then it's kind of trying to do life, right? All the things that you do in young adulthood, right? I met my spouse. I went to college and then grad school. I have my son. I had to make that decision about, what to do about family planning, which is extremely stressful, and also deeply personal. I'm an open book. I'm happy to share with anybody, and I think everybody has to make that decision for themselves. So yeah, I just continued to have my testing all the way up until I was 34. So when I was 34, I ended up having to have my first brain surgery, and then months later, on my 35th birthday, I had my first kidney surgery. I also had an eye surgery shortly after that. And I just continue to do my monitoring. I think that's something that you're going to hear repeated over and over and over again. I think what I wish I knew back then, I think would be a couple things. One, not to be a broken record, but to be your own advocate, have a good physician that you're comfortable with, and to keep up with your testing. I think those things are like the most important things in my experience. I have never had to have the experience of knowing I have VHL and being behind the eight ball and having to play catch up because, I didn't know. I've always known, I've always been prepared for the surgeries. They may not have always came when I wanted, they may not have always been at a time that worked great for me, but I was always able to prepare for them. I think the other thing that I wish I knew back then was that there is hope. I remember, feeling very hopeless, especially when my dad passed away, about VHL, about what it meant, what my future was going to look like. And I think that there's been great advancements. And it's really exciting time. So having hope, and also knowing that there are periods of relative calm, right? Like when I look back over the years, there's times where VHL has really, been in the driver's seat and I've had to stop, and that had to be my main focus. But there's other times when there's relative calm. I've been, doing my testing and going about the rest of my life. And I think being able to take that as it comes and be able to appreciate that and not worry about what's coming next. That's what I struggle with, but that's what I think is most important. So those would be the three main takeaways I have. I'm happy to talk about anything, any type of questions people have. I am an open book. Just let me know. That's about all I have.
Thanks so much, Emily. Sarge, would you go ahead next?
Hello, my name is Sarge Salman. I live in Baltimore. I'm 51 years old. I was diagnosed in 2015 when I was 43, and manifestation are kidneys, adrenal gland, brain, and spine. Even though I was born in Lebanon, I live in Baltimore, and I'm a de novo mutation, so it began with me and it ends with me. what I want you guys to know, especially the newbies, is that, the care that we are receiving today, the care that you are receiving today, is derived from the experience of past generations of VHL patients who committed to be good patients. Good patients, look out for their physical, emotional well-being. Good patients are engaged via clinical trials, advocacy, fundraising, attending meetings, et cetera, et cetera. Good patients stick to the surveillance guidelines. Now, the reason I bring this up is that invariably there are going to be days where you're just feeling down, you're cranky, and you just want to blow off this whole VHL thing. It's going to happen, but you shouldn't. Because the fact is that a diagnosis today, the outlook from a diagnosis today is much better than it was 8 years ago when I was diagnosed. And I believe that you and we have an obligation to be good patients so that in 8 years, the outlook is even better. So that's what I'd like you guys to know and to think about. In other words, we're not alone in this, and we're part of a community that, we need each other to push through this and to advance the knowledge and all the research and so forth. And so I believe, we have an obligation to be good patients, and that's what I wish you all to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarge. Joseph, you want to go ahead next?
Me. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the creepy lighting. I'm in my car. I'll tell you about that at the end. I'd like to start by saying hello, of course, and I'm glad to be here with everybody. I also would like to really emphasize and thank Sarge for putting that so well. The years and years and years, I've been diagnosed in 89, so I've been a patient with my family for quite some time, like some of the other folks on this call, and the community of patients really has been the reason for all this. And so I really like the way you put it. Thank you. I won't repeat any of it, but I just wanted to really emphasize what Sarge is saying. As a patient of over 30 years, I would like to share with everybody briefly a few things. One, in terms of surveillance, after 20 years of VHL and a few brain surgeries and a barrage of eye surgeries, I still had some of those days that Sarge was talking about, and I ignored my kidneys and my adrenal glands for a few years. And after coming out of my most recent brain surgery back in 2018, my neurosurgeon said, "Hey, really glad to let you know that surgery went well. You should recover the way we expect you to recover. But I also want to let you know that you have kidney cancer. We found the RCC tumor, and you are on the 3-centimeter cusp of metastasizing. So we have to act very quickly." And so fortunately, everything's gone really well, and I'm on now 5 years on WellyReg, and again, things are going really well. But even after a really long time, knowing how important surveillance was, I still slipped up almost enough to really cause myself quite a bit of harm or worse. And so little personal story to go with the emphasis of taking care of yourself, physically as well as emotionally and psychologically, of course, and being part of the community. So, thank you again, Sarge, and everybody for your input that way. Also personally, I am currently in Philadelphia visiting my cousin, about to go to a concert. And enjoy myself, because even after all the surgeries and the RCC and the everything else, fortunately with VHL, there's also a really high probability that things are going to go well enough that we can still enjoy a pretty full life, if not a really full life. A lot of us are parents or siblings, and enjoying a lot of the different things that maybe we thought a long time ago we wouldn't. And so keep your head up. And it might not be a great day, maybe it is a great day. Either way, you try to enjoy yourself as best you can. And that's really it. I just wanted to emphasize those things and share some positivity from down the road. And I hope everybody gets to be well and enjoy yourselves. And Josh, of course, please feel free to share my email if anybody has any questions after this call, I'm always happy to talk. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Nancy Rose, would you go next?
Hi, I'm Nancy Rose. I'm 35. I'm in Florida right now, and I'm also de novo. All the de novo VHLers hang out with the Alliance, so there's a way higher proportion of us here than anywhere else. We are very uncommon. I was only diagnosed 6 years ago after my first brain surgery, which was in the ER. When you're undiagnosed, often your tumors aren't treated exactly properly. So I walk with a cane now, but I'm also now seen at a clinical care center in Tampa, thanks to the VHL Alliance. I feel like that's a big part of getting by with this, honestly, is reaching out to the Alliance, because they know everything and they have all of the resources. And I mean, Josh knows everybody and wants to help you so much. Another thing that makes me really lucky is that I have family that's looking out for me. So if you have people who can help make sure that you're caring about yourself, honestly, more than anything else, I would say take advantage of that. I know it can be hard to take help, accept help, but it's important to accept help, especially when you have this disease, because when you accept help, when you monitor everything, things can go okay. I mean, I had 2 brain surgeries within my first year of diagnosis, but I haven't had any since then. And I started Wellereg a year and a half ago, and almost all of my tumors are shrinking or stable. I just have one that's a little problematic, but I'm seen at a CCC and they're monitoring it. And we're just trying to keep me from having to have surgery as long as possible, basically, because my doctors know that there's not just one surgery usually when it comes to VHL. Oh yeah, every year I do learn more about VHL. You'll see it's a never ending amount of information. And that's because the scientists are also learning more every single year. I mean, I feel like every year since I've been diagnosed, the life expectancy for people with VHL has gone up. And that's something to keep in mind and remain hopeful about, is we're researching it. It's being researched. There's medicine out there now that people had no idea could even really exist. And it's literally shrinking our tumors. I mean, and it makes me tired, which is a pretty reasonable side effect, honestly. If you can be seen at a clinical care center, I think that's ideal. I mean, we are our own best advocates. That's a reality of this. But if your team communicates with each other, that's really, really helpful. When they can access your scans, when they can all use the same abdominal MRI scans, they can all read from it, it's useful. Basic things like getting your abdominal MRI at the same time as your brain and spine MRI or something means you might need less contrast or fewer appointments, less time waiting for your scan. I also highly recommend going to the family gatherings if you're able to do that. I can't imagine having gone through this without having gone to the family gatherings. I've been really lucky that they've been places where I can go. My first one was within a month of my diagnosis here. My mom helped me find it. And then like every year after that, it was where I have family. So I was really lucky to be able to go to them. I also went to the young adult retreat a bunch, and I highly recommend that if you or anybody in your family is young enough and cares to interact with other people with VHL. It's pretty special to see other people who all have brain surgery scars, for example, were not common. I think that is all I have to say. I mean, beyond always ask me questions. If you ever have questions, I'm happy to answer. Reach out to me about anything, and I'll be honest with you always. And I'm grateful to be here, grateful that this is happening.
Thanks, Nancy Rose. Kwame, do you want to go ahead next?
I'm Kwame. I'm 37. I'm in Dallas, Texas. By the way, Family Day weekend is in Dallas next year. I don't think we announced it yet. Sorry, Josh. Early September, I believe. So come on down, come hang out, come see us. We'd love to have you, show you some Southern hospitality, you know. Anyway, I was diagnosed 5 years ago at the age of 32. I've had 3 surgeries, I believe, and I am on belzutifan or Welireg, and you know, minimal side effects. But I'm happy about the advancements that have been made, and grateful to be experiencing those and just being part of the alliance. I didn't reach out to the alliance until maybe a couple of years after I was diagnosed. I didn't even know it existed. I wish I'd have known earlier. And I found that being part of, you know, advocacy efforts and being part of the alliance and meeting other patients, this was a, you know, obviously first time I met someone with VHL. It was part of my healing. It was a big part of my healing because, I mean, it's such a rare condition. It can feel, you know, a little lonely. It can feel kind of like a little solo project if you don't have people to reach out to, if you don't know where the resources are. So incredibly grateful for the alliance, and it's super cool that if recently diagnosed, that you have found the alliance. You know, there are still people out there with this that don't know we exist. So the search continues to find those folks. But I mean, so many great things said tonight from Sarge, Emily, Joseph, everyone. I mean, I echo all of those sentiments. You know, I think maybe I'll add to a couple. Be your own advocate, be proactive in your care, and that includes surveillance, right? But also when you're sitting with physicians, ask questions. You know, physicians, the truth is, you know, it's better for visits to be shorter. You know, that it's a business at the end of the day. So you sitting there, you ask questions, you know about your own condition, you learn about it before you go. I mean, you know, don't go in there as Mr. or Mrs. Webb, MD, but be knowledgeable about it and force the doctor to doctor. That's what you should definitely do, for sure. I think you are able to get better results and a better outcome in a more engaged physician, you know, if you do that, for sure. I mean, the panels are so big these days. They're seeing so many patients a day, a week, a month. You know, you don't want to be lost in that shuffle. So definitely ask questions. There's no bad question. So definitely stay proactive and have perspective and find your peace, find your joy. You know, Joseph's in a car getting ready to walk into a concert. Maybe that's his thing. That's his happy place. For me, I like nature and I like sports. I like to be at all kinds of sporting events. You know, that's my favorite thing. So I consciously seek these things out, whether it's a TCU volleyball game, a Cowboys game, which I love the Cowboys. Sorry. You know, you just find your happy place. Find the things that work for you, whether it's that damn show you love, sit down, watch it. You know, it's a walk, it's a food you like to eat, whatever it may be. Speaking of food you like to eat, diet has been crucial for me. I think part of what this condition does, it can weigh on you physically and you may drag a little bit. One of the best things I've done is supplement my diet. My endocrinologist, you know, who knows all about VHL and my diagnosis, you know, recommended the Mediterranean diet. Look it up and get into it pretty much. You know, when you're dragging, these are things that you can do, you know, and I think that's part of being your own advocate and being proactive, doing all that you can do for yourself. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the best thing you could possibly do. And yeah, that's all I got for you. It's nice to meet you all. And Josh, you can hit Josh up if you want to be in touch. And I definitely encourage you to come to Family Day weekend. It was in Nashville this year, and I believe that was September or October, or I don't know, August maybe, but it was phenomenal. I had a great time, and it's definitely a fun place to be. There's social events, there's, you know, helpful health information, you know, and it's definitely something you want to attend if you can. And we're actively working on some programming for it. It's going to be really cool. So come through. We'd love to see you. And thank you.
Squammy. Thanks, Squammy. And then we have Danny.
Hi there, my name's Danny Batten. I'm 35. I live in Lexington, Kentucky right now. I grew up in Maryland. I've lived a couple other places. I was diagnosed with VHL when I was 18. I had a brain tumor. And since then I've had a little bit of, I've had several, I had a spinal cord surgery. I've had some eye involvement, kidney and adrenal gland as well. So I've been fortunate to always be seen at a clinical care center, managing, I guess, the physical aspect of it. I've been very fortunate in that regard. My mom, it was 2007, I think, found just online, came across the Alliance and found the resources that were available at the time and helped me get to a good group of physicians right off the bat. And I've been able to kind of keep that going. I think I wish I had known was, I guess, to sort of really invest in taking care of the mental or emotional part as well. For me, I've been able to take the, I guess, the physical guidelines and say like, oh, this is a checklist and I just have to do these things. And so I can go and I go to the doctors and I'm a pretty good patient. So I do that. And I've been able to remain sort of optimistic about my general future and outlook. So I've never had the doom and gloom feelings, but I took that to mean that I was doing the mental and emotional part fine. And most of the people in my life look at me and sort of see how I do it and say, oh, great, you're doing fine. But I have some people in my life who within the last couple of years have been like, oh no, I've noticed you actually seem to be like carrying a lot of stress, and it's sort of the sub threshold, getting older, had more surgeries. I'm pretty fine with doing MRIs, but people have noticed like, oh, you're like a wreck for a couple days after that. You're like, you just look bad. Or some of the travel, or sort of just stress about being how appointments are going to go, and what that looks like is different for everybody. Kwame's mentioned having a community here. That's been super helpful, super important for some people. It's faith and being involved in a church or a different type of community. For me, it's just been learning a lot about how my body and mind work together and handle stress. And for other people, it might be sort of going regularly to therapy. But I found it really helpful to just learn about stress and stressors and how my body sort of handles some of those things, even my body sort of is doing a lot of work behind the scenes when my brain is saying like, oh, I did my appointments, I feel optimistic about my future, and so everything's fine. So yeah, I would just encourage sort of everyone to be sort of be active and be introspective and really think about your mental and emotional well-being, and kind of look for resources and look for help for that, even before you think you need it. Oh, that's it.
Thanks so much, Danny. I see that Bobby Kramer is on the line. Bobby, would you want to share a little bit next? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Hi, no, I'm more than happy to share. Bobby Kramer. I got diagnosed in 2008 at the age of 44. Subsequently, multiple surgeries. I just got a cryoablation on my right kidney about a month ago. Super successful. I'm one of those original Wellereg clinical trial people, so you've probably seen me. I always take a picture of my shoe while I'm at MD Anderson. I don't know how that started, but I know how it started. I was sitting in the waiting room the first week, and I took a picture of my shoe because I was just bored and sitting there, and somebody sitting in the couch next to me said, "Are you Bobby Kramer? I just saw the picture of your shoe on the VHL website." So I continued it, and it's been a fun thing. To get to know other people. That journey's been interesting. I'm going to be really honest. I got really involved right out of the gate. I was on the board of directors for like 6 years. I was the Arizona clinical care coordinator for a long time. And then I just had to take a break. And it's nothing against anybody else. I just, in my own personal world, I needed to just step back and assess where I was in my life. And I've always done all the monitoring, and I'm well, but I just needed a break. And I saw that this was on, and to be honest, this is the first time I've been live for a couple of years, and it's really nice to see your faces. I had a kid, Gunner, that was born with VHL. We got him tested right when he was 5 when I got diagnosed. So we did the genetic testing. So he knew at 5 he had it. He had been through multiple surgeries. And I think my new message in life, I lost him in April to suicide. And I am trying to figure out a positive spin to pass on to others about the importance of mental health. And, for the kids, the teenagers, he was the teen spokesman for VHL for a couple of years. And I just think underneath it all, he struggled, and lots of psychiatric counseling. The depression got him, and the kid had access to every possible thing in the world. We have amazing insurance. I'm a dentist. I work in healthcare. I mean, that kid could have had anything, and he did. He was on Wellereg. He was when it first went to market, he was one of the first people on it. And I lost him. And it wasn't that I wasn't an involved parent. I feel we did everything we possibly could have done. So my message is that we really got to watch the kids. I think that COVID and the isolation of COVID was terrible. I'm a professor, and I'm seeing in a dental school, and I see the outcome of a couple of years of COVID at college. So my message now is really that, we really need to be vigilant and really be involved and really keep an eye on people. And I realize that teaching resilience is really important. And I think that obstacles in your life are the things that create resilience. And so I'm actually going to go on the speaker circuit on this, and because I really think it's important, not for just the kids with VHL, but for all of our youth. And I'm going to try to pass that on as a really hopeful, powerful message. So I'm still on Wellereg, and my tumors have literally really some shrank. My kidney tumor was on a real rate of growth, and when I started Wellereg, it was at it was just under 3. Over 5.5 years, it went to 3.1. just over 3. And I was like, just take it out. Let's get it done. I'm going to continue on it. They've kept me on the clinical trial. So I'm here for you guys. I want to see how long we can stay on Wellereg, and hopefully this drug will help thousands and thousands of people around the world. So I'm honored to be a part of that. This I will say that my time early on in my diagnosis with VHL, I called Joyce. Those of you who knew Joyce, who started it, she was awesome. And she was like a mom. And I will say, I hear you all talking about how important it is to find others who have VHL. You need a tribe. Join the tribe, get others to join it. It's important. And I love the wellness messages. And I want to just tell you all that you're not alone. And the beautiful thing in medicine is time. And time gives us the opportunity for new advances in treatment, from pharmacological aspects and surgical aspects. I know if I'd had this tumor in my kidney 10 years ago, it would have been open surgery. I mean, amazing. I walked out with a Band-Aid and I went to work the next day on Tylenol, and that's it. So I want to give you the encouragement that I've watched the VHL Alliance just grow from a mom and pop to where it is today. And I feel really honored and proud that we're all there for everybody, and it's become just a really tremendous thing. And when I hang up tonight, I'm also on the Department of Defense Rare Disease Research Grant Proposal team. So I am reviewing. I'm sworn to secrecy about what's out there, but I'm still working for you guys, and I'm hoping to find some awesome new research that's looking for money. And I'm the advocate for the VHL as a patient, not a doctor. And so I'm here for you guys. So I, just want to say I love y'all. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing, Bobby.
Sure.
So that's the end of the panelist portion of tonight, but I wanted to open it up to anybody who wanted to, anybody in the audience or any of the panelists who wanted to, thought of something they wanted to share or had any questions or wanted somebody to elaborate on anything. Now is your time. But I think the best way to do that, if anybody on your Zoom, if you click more on the bottom and then reactions, you should be able to put up like a little hand, like a raised hand. So if anybody has anything, just so we could not have everybody talking over each other. So the floor is yours, Melissa.
Would that be Michelle?
I think it says Melissa raised her hand, but Michelle, if you want to share.
Yeah, I'll let her go.
Okay. Okay, my name is Melissa Thompson. I just wanted to thank all the panelists and just thank y'all for your openness and your boldness. I know sometimes that's not easy to step out and be open and courageous. And I think that's what it's going to take, is people being willing to be real. And we can't hide our physical, mental scars from anybody anymore. And so I appreciate everybody's openness and honesty, and we can all make each other stronger through what we're going through. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi. I just have what I consider a very successful win. I've been trying to advocate. I've been pretty much alone in the universe on this because everyone's been in denial. I would say the largest game changer we've had is the diagnostic code. I just got a new apartment, which was right across the hall, based on my diagnostic code that my psychiatrist, my doctor, and several others used that code with. I was having hypertension problems. The other apartment was over the entrance. And it's pretty much the first time that I've felt comfortable because there was a diagnostic code, I was looked at as a VHL patient and not as a list of symptoms. And actually successfully brought attention to the fact, hi, there was no Lou Gehrig's disease until he got it. No, I have VHL. Now, I have not had any surgeries. I have not been diagnosed. All of my tests are in the wind, God knows where. So I'm just pretty much at 64, knowing I've had it, doing the therapy the whole time, desire to survive, but now I've got a diagnostic code that everyone can bill, so now they're finally interested. And I'm doing much better in my apartment. It's got sunlight, so I'm no longer turning into a mushroom. But yeah, awareness is what we need, and I tell everybody, and they still think I should act normal. It doesn't work that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And by the way, that code was fairly recent. Only I think it was 2021. So
October
up until then,
2022.
22. Yeah, there you go. So
I was
it's
excited
amazing.
when I saw it.
Yes, such small little changes that should have been probably done a long time ago can make a big difference.
Who supplies the code? Is it like Medicare or how does it go? In the US, I'm assuming.
Bobby might be able to speak to this better than me. I believe it is. It might be Medicare.
I'll
That's
send you a
new to
newsletter.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a universal classification like coding system for medical systems. So prior to this, you would have been coded as having kidney cancer or something else, but not VHL. So it potentially could have limited what your insurance would have covered.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, my primary diagnosis now with my new doctor since January, it is actually now in the computers as a diagnosis and prints out as me having von Hippel. And that's a real major success. And that just happened probably in the last 6 months.
That's great. Great to hear. Seth, I see your hands up.
Yeah, sure. If I can just add one thing, which I actually wanted to mention earlier, but I think it's apropos here. Again, VHL is a whole syndrome. It's not just one thing. So along those lines, speaking about surgeries, make sure that whichever doctor is looking to do surgery on you really understands VHL, because certain things are handled differently with VHL. I forget who actually mentioned it, but the idea of multiple surgeries where we kind of know we're going to have them going forward. So some doctors want to cut right away. Other doctors understand that, look, if you have a tumor in one place, you're probably going to have one at some point in the future. And in my opinion, you kind of want to cause as little trauma to your body as possible. Where if something needs to come out right now, then take it out, obviously. If there's something else which is kind of questionable, I think certain doctors are okay maybe following certain things. And that's both from the CNS as well as kidneys. As far as kidneys go, we have better rules out there as to when intervention is actually needed. So I know someone who recently had a kidney surgery, which knowing what I know from working with the VHL, the odds of metastasis were extremely low. I would not have had that surgery myself. So that's something which I have learned from the VHL, from the VHLA. And that kind of goes hand in hand with being your own advocate, where certain people I know, for example, had kidney tumors and the doctor's first move was just to take out one kidney. Where if you had a sporadic tumor, that's what you normally would do. If you have VHL, that's not what you should be doing. You should be minimizing the impact on the kidney as much as possible, because if you take out one kidney right away, there's a chance that within a couple of years you could have something on the other kidney. So I think everybody's theme is knowledge for the most part. So just learn what you have, learn what you need to do, understand that doctors aren't always right. A lot of them, or I can say most doctors I've met definitely want what's best for you. Sometimes they may not know exactly what's best for you. So to Kwame's point, you don't want to be second guessing them with your diagnosis from WebMD because you kind of figured something out. But at the same time, ask questions. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion from someone else, especially when it comes to surgery. That's kind of my takeaway. Where Kwame also mentioned family meetings. Every family meeting which I've been to since, I've learned basically that my spinal tumor, which I had taken out in 2001, which was catastrophic, that surgery should not have been done. So knowing that now, every year I hear it, it gets a little bit easier to take, but definitely something which I wish I had known way back when, where once somebody wants to cut, I would call someone else and say, all right, maybe that's necessary, but let's make sure. So that's kind of my key takeaway, which I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sal. So we still have some time left. If anybody has any questions or anything they want to share, comments. Oh, Nancy.
Hi, yeah, that's only moderately related, but since diagnosis, I've also been in therapy, and I highly recommend people get in therapy because it can be a lot to complain to people who you love or people who love you. That can weigh on you also. And so to have someone who it's their job to listen to you can really help take a load off. And I don't know, I highly recommend it.
Thanks. Danny.
I forgot to mention before, I usually try to mention this in VHL places because it's not very common, but I have epilepsy and I've developed it as a result of a hemangioblastoma. So usually hemangioblastomas grow sort of in the back part of the brain, but I have one really tiny little guy that's been there for a really long time, and he's in my left temporal lobe, which is way up here. And that part of the brain apparently is very sensitive to or is very prone to cause seizures. And so probably like 8 years ago, I had a seizure. And before that, I'd been having these sort of sub seizure, they're called auras. And I didn't know what they were, and they weren't significant enough to make me like scratch my head and figure out anything about it. And so I was diagnosed, and the thing about that is neurologists who work primarily with VHL don't see epilepsy almost ever, and that's not really something they're sort of used to managing. And epileptologists, so neurologists who specialize in epilepsy, don't ever see VHL patients. And so obviously I go to my VHL neurologist and I get my scans done, and that's way more. Getting an annual or every 6 months MRI is way more than most epilepsy patients get. But they still say sort of like, well, as far as medication, as far as if something happens to you in the meantime, that's sort of not there. It's not my wheelhouse. And so having that sort of unique diagnosis is a little bit, a lot of people have said, be your own advocate. I've had to really learn. I've had to really learn, like, oh, what does this mean? What does this look like? And how's the best way to manage it for me? And so I see a doctor here locally at the University of Kentucky. Actually, I'm in the process of getting a new local epilepsy neurologist. I had a great doctor for about 3 years, and she's moving out of the area. So I'm seeing 2 other people in her clinic right now. I liked one. I didn't love the other. I've never fired a VHL doctor, but I have found new epileptologists. When I look for that, I look for them to be curious about VHL. I look for them to be asking who's caring for me for that. How do they get in touch with them if they want to know more about VHL? The way that a VHL neurologist talks about managing a tumor is very different than how another neurologist who works with different stuff is going to talk about it. So kind of like, I think Seth, what you were saying was reminding me about that. But yeah, it's everybody's a little different. And so I'm a resource for anyone else who maybe has had seizures or kind of other not so common neurological symptoms. But no, we've all got something sort of unique to learn. And I'll second Seth's earlier recommendation. Don't be afraid to like fire a doctor or say, I want to see someone else, or start looking and sort of asking questions about what the best way to manage your care is, especially when something like that is a little outside the handbook. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Danny.
Didn't lower my hand. Thank you so much for sharing that. If that you can hear me. I thought my epilepsy and my VHL were separated. And now thank you for sharing that. I've always assumed they were connected.
It's not impossible. I've met one other person, it was through the VHL Alliance, that has a very similar set of circumstances to me. So it's definitely not impossible.
Okay, because I fully identify with that. And now I know at least what to go in there. You know, it's not an either or, and it's not a both.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
Christy.
Me unmute. I couldn't figure out how to do this on the more, so I had to raise my hand.
That's okay.
I'm a mother of a VHL patient, a 32-year-old daughter, and she also has epilepsy. She started with an epilepsy diagnosis when she was age 10, and then got the VHL diagnosis 4 years ago. And I had never thought about the relationship, but I can relate to having troubles finding doctors who know anything about it. And by the way, Bobby, Connie Rath is a college classmate and friend of mine. Is Bobby still on? I
think Bobby dropped off, but Connie's on our board of directors.
Connie is, yes. And so we go way back, and probably at one time had the only 2 children in the state of Nebraska, where I live, with VHL. So my daughter has recently moved back from Mexico, from Cancun, where she was getting great care. They have great doctors and hospitals there. So I am embarking on the very uphill task of finding a doctor anywhere near that knows anything about VHL and epilepsy. She had great doctors in Cancun and in Phoenix, where she lived before. So I may be reaching out for resources. She's now living back at home. She's single and had been married and living in Cancun. So it's a whole new world for me, undertaking to be an advocate and helper for her. She's a very private person, and so it's me that's on tonight and not her. But anyway, I wanted to say thank you very much. I really, really appreciate everybody's openness and your offers to be resources. And I've relied on VHL literature and information greatly in the past. It's really been helpful. So that's all I have.
Yes, we're glad you were able to join us. I
Thank
also
you.
just dropped into the chat for you a link on our website that could help you find these VHL clinical care centers. So wherever your daughter might be, she could just check there out and find some places close by.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So, and I know we have, I scheduled this originally until 8:30. It's already a little past 8. I want to make sure that everybody who wants to share or has any questions has the opportunity. Feel free also to raise your hand, like in the camera, if you can't find the button. Anybody?
I would just add one thing. I found it helpful to get involved with the VHLA, where it's kind of cathartic to be able to help out other people, to see the VHLA actually help out other people. Where, I mean, I remember Nancy Rose's first meeting where she had just been diagnosed, and it was kind of cool just seeing her understand that there was information out there for her, that this organization had done that. So to have had some part with the organization through volunteering, again, it's something which I feel like if you're the kind of person who's looking to help at all, looking for something to do, there's always something the VHLA can use some assistance with, and it can make you feel better as well while you're doing it. So definitely something to think about.
I think that's a great point, Seth. I would echo that a million times over. I served on the board for 6 years, and I did not think I was qualified when I started. I did not think that I was board material, but I agreed to do it anyways. And it was a great experience. As much as I learned and as much as time and effort I put back, I feel like I got way more in return. So I definitely think that, we're in this together, and if it's not going to be us, who's it going to be? So, they can always use any support and help, no matter how small or big. So I think that's a great point. And it really helped me to meet a lot of people, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Nancy, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just wanted to reinforce again. I mean, I think for the 5th or 6th time, I wrote down Kwame's quotation about it, though, that force the doctor is so important. My first neurologist didn't believe me about anything and just took advantage of me. I mean, now that I'm at a CCC, things are different, but I recognize every day that the doctors may or may not take me seriously. And so if they're questioning you, you can always reach out to the Alliance to verify things and to see whether or not it's something that you should pursue fighting them on or firing them about, because sometimes you have to fire your doctor, and it's important to keep that in mind.
Thanks, Nancy. Kim? Oop, you're still on mute.
All righty, try that again. So I'm new. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Yeah, cool. Thanks. So I've never been on one of these calls before, so this is amazing, I have to say. I've never seen this many people in one room talk about VHL ever. So anyway, but I just started, let's see, I was diagnosed about 16, 17 years ago. But I just started Wellereg about a month ago. And I'm like really nervous about it. So I was hoping maybe I could hear or reach out to some folks or learn kind of more about how it's been for you. So, because I'm just kind of concerned about how I'm gonna, work on it, and just, I don't know, just different things I might not even be able to, things that I don't know are gonna happen maybe, right? So the unknown, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So so that's my question to you folks, if anybody wouldn't mind if I reached out and just sort of, or if you have any feedback that you could provide now, tips or things that you've experienced and how you kind of got through it. I'm definitely noticing that I've been pretty tired of late. But I don't know. Right now, it doesn't seem like it's like low blood oxygen or anything. I don't know if it's anemia. Anyway, I don't know. Sorry, I know it's a lot, but I'm just trying to get some help around that so I can understand how to hopefully have a what is
Yeah.
it, better experience with it. Yeah.
Kim, I mean, what you're going through is normal in terms of what you find out, and I suggest you keep notes and like write down your questions.
Okay.
Organize your thoughts. And the other thing, so you know, when you meet with the doctor, you know, you have specific questions. You know, you're focused, you're prepared. You know, because the doctor's obviously always nervous, invariably. But the other thing is, I think invariably, I think we tend to have a lot of questions, but only ask important questions. Don't ask, you know, look for, I mean, an important question is one where the answer has an impact on your well-being. You know, don't waste energy on things that don't matter, like, you know, why I got this, whatever, what difference does it make? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also only make decisions when you have to. In other words, you know, as they say, oh, in 2 years, well, then we'll talk about it in 2 years. Kind of don't get carried away. But I suggest write these things down, because what you're going through is normal, and you know, just kind of help organize your thoughts. So when you do sit down with the doctor, you say, okay, these are my 3 questions, and you know, you can kind of deal with it that way. But I think you should write these things down, because yeah, it's you're gonna get questions all over the place, and so my recommendation is write it down.
Okay. Thank you.
Michelle, I see your hands up.
Yes, and it goes along with the point he just made. I just got health insurance after 13 years of not having it, and just got a doctor in January, and he was hysterical. I went in. I'm going to be using the resources. I'm just getting started, so I don't know anyone who is in VHL, but I came in with a list of notes, and my new doctor looked at me and said, "You do know that most people come in and get a note from the doctor, don't bring a list of notes into the doctor." He was rather smug on that. But yeah, I will be getting resources. I'm just getting settled here after I was diagnosed in 2010. No one would take me seriously, not even my family. So yeah, 2004, you guys will be hearing a whole lot from me and looking for resources. Thank you so much for making me not feel so weird in this world. It was just so misunderstood. It feels good to be part of a family. So thank you.
You know, Michelle, you bring up a good point. I think when you show up at the doctor with a list, it reflects that you're a serious person. You're taking this seriously. I think that's important, because that's how doctors perceive you. You know, I think that's important, because that probably will impact how they treat you. And I think these things matter. Yeah. So how you come across, because you're right. I mean, we can be, you know, hysterical, crazy, all these things, but like, no, you know, this is, I think it's important. It helps you, but also may improve your relationship with the doctor if he sees you're coming prepared, and, you know, you're taking your time very seriously, and, you know, all business.
What's nice too is when I have my appointments, we almost use it as a checklist. It's like, okay, we'll deal with this, this, and this, and then bring the list back next time. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, or you might say, you know what, this question, actually, it's not really that important. We don't need to talk about it today. Exactly. But just help organize your thoughts and just write things down. And yeah,
And
it's
it
helped
helps
to make the
getting
doctor's job
referrals.
easier.
He gives me referrals based on the questions. I don't do this, but I can refer you, which I wouldn't know unless I had written it down and asked him.
Exactly. So I think that's the reality of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in related to that. One thing that I found that doctors are usually really okay with is if you ask them if it's okay to record the appointment, they'll let you record it. So you have an audio copy of it in case you want to go over anything again, or you want to make sure you didn't miss any notes. I mean, I've had temporal surgery, so maybe I'm a little more forgetful than many, but I still think that it's something good to keep in mind. I mean, they're really open to it. I mean, you have to talk to them first, but they're open to it.
And I think, you know, explain to them why you're doing it. Not because you're going to sue them, right? I mean, explain to them your situation. And I think most doctors, if you're candid with them, they will be empathetic. And I think that it's important, yeah, how we come across.
I agree. Also watch that. I think some states, I don't even know if it's legal, to be honest. And to Kim, what I found with Wellereg, I too experienced lack of energy, but I experienced lack of energy more when I would take Wellereg during the day, like in the morning. But if I take it, you know, within, I don't know, 2-3 hours of when I'm set to go to bed, and I don't feel so, you know, I don't experience such a severe lack of energy the next day or in the coming days. You know, I kind of got into that routine, and I also supplemented with a pretty good multivitamin. You definitely need to do things to make sure your energy stays up. Multivitamin, diet, stuff like that. But you know, if you want to reach out, we'll chat about all that, and I'll let you know everything that I do to kind of combat the side effects.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you. It's really helpful. Appreciate it.
It looks like Nancy just also put in the chat the same thing, that she takes it at night as well.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Any more questions? Anything anybody wants to share? Well, maybe while people are thinking, I could share some upcoming events we have that I think might be interesting to some people. This upcoming Monday night, we have our Parents of VHLers call. Anybody who is a parent to a child with VHL is welcome. It's moderated by a woman named Leona, who is a certified life coach. She herself has VHL as well as her child. And she runs that call. It's every other month, but it happens to be this upcoming Monday night at 8 p.m. And it's really wonderful. I know somebody asked about if there's anybody in Canada. She lives in Canada. So she's an amazing resource to talk to about that, but also in general for parents of each other. So we invite everybody to join us for that 8 p.m. on Monday night. We also have two other calls. The next one is going to be the next session will be on Monday, December 11th. That's also going to be led by Leona, and that is a patient caregiver call. It's an hour-long call where people join, and there's a topic every month, and it's about learning from each other and supporting one another. It's also an amazing call. In addition to those two calls, we have a monthly low no vision call. So anybody who has VHL, who has had their vision impacted by the disease, we have a monthly call that's really, really wonderful. And the next one of those will be on Wednesday, December the 13th. All of these events and calls are on our website, vhl.org. They're also in the Facebook group, so they're all there if you want to just take a look. Two bigger events that we have coming up are in the first is coming up in February. It's our annual young adult retreat. It's going to be taking place in Washington, D.C. It's being hosted by the NIH. Last year, it was incredible, our first time back after COVID. And we're going to be doing it again this year. We're going to have private meetings with some of the top researchers and doctors at the NIH and in VHL in the world, as well as a lot of community building, networking. It's really going to be an amazing weekend. It's open to anybody who has VHL from the age of 21 to 36. And so please join us. And there are scholarships available to cover the costs. So I don't want anybody to think that cost should be a reason not to be a part of this, because it's not. And there are scholarships available. So feel free to reach out. And after that, a little bit further down the road, I know a bunch of people brought it up, but in September in Dallas, we're going to be hosting our annual family weekend. It is an incredible weekend. You get to meet some of the top doctors in the world. Kwame mentioned it's going to be hosted in Dallas by University of Texas Southwestern. And it just so happens that this drug Wellereg originally came out of UT Southwestern. So we're going to get to talk to some of the doctors who were involved in the very beginning of the drug, which is really, really exciting. And And when you hear some of the stuff they've got going on next, I think you're going to be very impressed. But that's another amazing weekend. That one, we invite you to bring your family, caregivers, kids, anybody you want. And there's going to be a lot of programming. It's going to be a really great time. And I'm hoping, I assume a lot of people on this call will be there, so you'll get to meet a lot of us in person, which is amazing. Again, all of this stuff is on our website. So please go to VHL.org and you'll find everything there, including a lot of other helpful information as well as support resources and things like that. You
Josh,
have about 10 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Question. Yeah, just
Of
about
course.
that family weekend. So is there stuff for like the family members as well? Because I was thinking about going to the young adults thing next year, but then I was like, well, if my mom goes with me, like she's kind of stuck doing her own thing. And so I'm just kind of curious, like what happens at the family weekend, I guess.
So the family weekend, definitely it's meant to bring everybody in the family. The first night, we're still flushing out some of the the agenda we're still working on, but in general, the first night will be a more of like a social networking, get to know everybody kind of night. We'll probably do something really fun. The next day on Saturday is going to be more about information, learning about what's going on in research, getting to meet all the doctors there and learn about their role on the team and what a coordinated care should look like in VHL. There's going to be breakout sessions specifically for different topics. Like there's going to be a session just for parents and caregivers. There's going to be a session for anybody who wants to learn more about financial planning when it comes to VHL. There's a few other sessions that we're working on, but it's going to be really great. And there's definitely going to be something for everybody. And then there's going to be another big event Saturday night that's going to be a lot of fun. And we're still flushing out Sunday as well, but there will be something early Sunday too. And by the way, if anybody has anything that they want, like, I know I want this question answered at the family weekend, or this is the topic that I really would like to discuss, please let us know, because as we're planning this, there's room for us to make sure that everybody who's going to be there is getting what they want out of it. So don't be shy. I hope I answered your question. All right. But by the way, still come to the young adult retreat. It's definitely a different vibe. It's also a lot of fun. Anybody else have any questions? Could be about anything at all. You're on mute, Emily.
Okay. I just wanted to speak really briefly to Hillary. She had messaged me and I'm having problems with my phone. So she can reach out to me at any point and I'm happy to talk with her. I'm just having problems with the text and the chat function. So I just wanted her to know that.
I got your phone number. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll text you. Thank you.
And of course, if anybody wants to be connected to anybody else, you could feel free to message me or email me josh.mann, MANN @vhl.org. And I'm happy to introduce you to people, answer any questions you have, make any connections. So yeah, I'm always a resource for you. So again, don't be shy.
Thank you. My dinosaur computer died, so I'm still trying to figure out a cell phone.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions or comments? Anything they want to share?
Just thank you for these meetings.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. And like I said, if there's a meeting that you want to happen that we don't currently do, let us know. And I bet you if there's something that you're trying to get out of it that we don't currently offer, there's probably other people that want it too. They just haven't told us. So if you let us know, the beauty about being such a small and flexible organization is that we could create programming, we could change program, we could do whatever needs to be done to make sure that everyone's getting what they need. So yeah, let me know.
Thank you.
Does there was a question in the chat here. Does anybody have any recommendations for spouses or loved ones?
You mean to find ones? define spouses or?
I think the question was about communicating about VHL with them, but I don't know.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, no, I can't answer that, sorry.
I suggest reaching out to Leona again.
Or well, how about anybody on the call who's a patient who has a spouse? How do you I guess how does your spouse support you? I guess is the question. Yeah, please.
My family never did.
So I'm a patient, but I've also been a caregiver. I've taken care of family members who have VHL, so I kind of have seen both sides of the coin. And I'm also married. So it's really hard because I think, VHL is unique to each person, and what each person needs is a little bit different. I don't think that there's one magic piece of communication, right? I think it's kind of dependent on your personality. But what I've found is I think actually being the caregiver is harder than being the patient. And so it's really hard to see somebody you love. How can they support and understand? Okay. I think just knowing that, sometimes it's a lot coping with VHL, right? It's a lot dealing with it. And it's hard for me sometimes to share things with family members because it's hard enough to accept it myself than to feel like I'm putting that burden onto them. Can sometimes be challenging. So for me, it's kind of just knowing that they're there, right? And that the door's open, like, hey, I love you if you want to talk, or even just knowing like that it's stressful for me. Like, a lot of people have scanxiety, right? It gets stressful around scanning time and around all those appointments. You don't even necessarily have to have a huge discussion with me about it, but try to do something with me, try to hang out with me, try to just show that you care. You know what I mean? I think those things go a long way. And it's all right to be honest and just say, hey, I love you, but I don't know what to say in this situation, but I just want you to know I'm here. Being just transparent and honest about it, I think that goes a long way too.
Melissa, were you gonna share something?
Yeah, I can also. I would pretty much echo the same thing. I'm married, have been for 19 years, and I have a little girl who's 11. So I could speak to both ends of my wedding had to be moved up 3 months because I had to have my first, well, not first, but another brain surgery. But I think you just have to be like my husband's mom said, it doesn't matter if you love her. It doesn't matter how much time you have with her. Just enjoy whatever time you have, and just be grateful if you really love her that you found somebody you love, and just have fun with what time you have, because it could always be worse, but it could be better, but it could be a lot worse. And so these calls help keep you humble. I think, just being open and honest with your spouse and letting them know, yeah, hey, this is scary, but guess what? There's a lot of people. I attend these calls that have situations that are a lot worse off. And I've told that to my child. And I tell her often, yeah, mommy has, a lot of scary things happening. And I've had to leave her several times to go have brain surgery. And, open and honesty is important. But letting her know too, hey, don't be scared, because guess what? I'm going to be okay. And, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse. And so when we're strong, they're strong. And when they know that it's going to be okay, when you're stable, they can be pretty stable too.
Thank you.
one of the things that always resonates with me is that like being on a plane where you have to put on your mask first before you put on the person who's with you, like a kid or whatever. And I think that that's so true, because if you're not taking care of yourself, how could you be expected to take care of somebody else? So addressing your own physical health, emotional health, making sure you're good. That's the first step in being able to make sure the people around you are good too, I think.
I
So
think another thing, oh, sorry.
no, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say,
Go ahead, Emily.
I think another thing that's important to kind of understand as somebody who maybe doesn't have VHL and is trying to be a caregiver or a support person for VHL, like, okay, it's a lot. We live this every day. For me, I can't remember. It's been a long time since there hasn't been a few things that are going on and a few things that are being watched. I think sometimes I'm not ready to share something until I know what I'm going to do about it. So I think sometimes family members or people that care worry, right? And they're upset maybe that we don't tell them right away or that we don't let them know. But I think sometimes we have to be okay with it ourselves. And a lot of times I want to be able to say, okay, I have this tumor and this is what I'm doing about it. And sometimes, unfortunately, with the way our medical system is, it can take a while before I have that answer. And I think a lot of people kind of struggle with that. And I think you have to let the patient and you have to let the person who's experiencing it kind of take the lead. Sometimes people are going to tell you things right away. Sometimes people probably aren't. But I think that's probably a big part of why, and not taking that personal.
One of the rules that I kind of developed over the years is that, when you're telling someone about your VHL, you're dropping a grenade in their lap. You don't know what kind of day they've been having, so forth. So they're going to react. You have to respect how they react. But the other rule I decided for me is I only share information when it's actionable. I say, so my mom thinks I don't have kidney cancer, and that's fine. When the time comes surgery, I'll say, oh, look, the tumor's back. So, but this is what I'm going to do. It's actionable. Otherwise, they're just sitting there getting nervous and it doesn't matter. So I only share actionable information. Other than that, they don't need to know. And that works for me. And I think for them too. Yeah, because human nature, when they want to do something, or you can say, I'm going to have surgery. I need someone to call me every day. I need someone to bring me lunch on Tuesday. Someone has to come take me for walks. Give them something to do. I think that also helps.
Thanks, Sarge. So we are at just past 8:30. So I just want to again thank everybody for coming today, especially the people who spoke on the panel. It's always great to hear your stories and learn from your wealth of experience and insight. So thank you so much, and thank you everybody else who joined. I hope tonight you got something out of it. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions, need any information, want to get put in touch with somebody, or have any questions about any of the events we have coming up. And I really hope you will take advantage of some of these resources, because some of them are really great. And if they're not great, tell us how we can make it better, and we will. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. And I hope you have a wonderful night and a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.